All right, so we're going to talk about a team in this video that I never expected to be talking about in the weeks before the trade deadline, at least not in any meaningful way, and that is the Boston Celtics, the surprise team of the NBA season. I think the best story in the NBA right now, fighting for the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, a team that gutted its roster last year via trade and free agency, that lost Jason Tatum to what was believed to be a season-ending injury during the playoffs last year. They're sitting out there with the second best offensive rating in the NBA. Remarkable statistic. The Celtics, without Jason Tatum, a top 5 MVP player, have a better offensive rating this season than they did last season. It's an incredible run by the Celtics that has put them in a position to look at being buyers before this NBA trade deadline. If you go back to September, October, if you were going to project any activity for Boston before the deadline, it was going to be as sellers. The Celtics, after making the moves involving Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, allowing Al Horford and Luke Kornet to leave via free agency, they got under that second tax apron. And the priority in the Celtics front office before the season was looking at ways to get under the luxury tax. There are a lot of benefits to that. You can get out of that repeater tax territory. You can start giving yourself more flexibility in the years to come. That's why when the Celtics were talking to teams about, say, an Anthony Simons, who makes about $27 million this year, they were trying to get back less salary so they could slide under that luxury tax threshold. Well, this start to the season has completely changed the calculus in Boston, has the Celtics thinking of a lot of different things and a lot of different ways to approach this trade deadline. And look, if you're the Celtics, you've got to believe that if Jason Tatum can return, and all indications out there and everything that I've heard is that he is going to push really hard in February, March to get back out there on the floor and be there with the team for most of the second half of this season. But if Jason Tatum can return, the Celtics have to look at their team and say, we're probably one big man away from competing for the crown in the Eastern Conference. They've done a tremendous job mixing and matching guys in the front court. Neemias Queta, who had 6 starts through his entire career before this season, has been a real rim protector for them at about 20, 25 minutes per game. They've gotten contributions from Luka Garza, early season contributions from Josh Minott. You've got Sam Hauser stepping in, playing sort of a quasi-power forward. They've been able to duct tape enough pieces together to be serviceable in that front court. But in the postseason, you need to have, I think, one more real big to compete with the Pistons, with the Knicks, maybe with the Bucks, some of these bigger teams that are out there in the Eastern Conference. So where do the Celtics look? Because they do have the assets to go and get someone. You do have the expiring contract of Anthony Simons, who has been really good for this team. Kind of a microwave guy off the bench offensively and serviceable enough defensively to get minutes in Joe Mazzulla's rotation. But he's the one guy, because of that contract, that you can use to bring somebody back. You've also got some draft capital. They have control of their own first-round pick in this year's draft. Some other stuff down the line that they can do. So there's ways to get into the mix for a big man out there. And the 2 big men that I'm looking at, that I think the Celtics are looking at and have discussed internally, are Ivica Zubac, the LA Clippers center, and Robert Williams III, the Time Lord, the former Celtic who is playing out in Portland. Let's start with Zubac because he is, to me, the most interesting guy. The Clippers, I don't think they have any intention right now of moving off Zubac. They played some pretty good basketball over the last 3 or 4 weeks, pushed themselves back into the play-in race. But this is a team that has had some wild ebbs and flows. And if they continue to struggle and fall out of the play-in race as we get close to the deadline, I think it's possible the Clippers would be open to dealing Zubac for a pretty considerable price. You could make some money work, some math work with the contract of Anthony Simons. And then from there, it's about draft capital. The Clippers, from what I hear, I think they're going to be looking for multiple first-round picks in any potential deal for Zubac. Would the Celtics be willing to go that high? Maybe. Zubac is not kind of a one-year rental. He's got a couple years left in his contract after this season. He's a young guy. Last year, he was one of the top defensive big men in the game. So it's not like you're taking a guy that's in his mid-30s, you're only going to get for a year or two. This is a guy that could conceivably be part of this Tatum-Brown core for several years to come. So that's an interesting name, I think, to keep an eye on with the Celtics. And Robert Williams, who has battled so many injuries over the last few years, dating back to his time in Boston. He is not a long-term fit in Portland. The Blazers have Donovan Clingan as their long-term fit in center. Their recent first-round draft pick, Young Hansen, is a big man. So Robert Williams is not long, at least not long-term, for Portland. That would be somebody that could fit right into what the Celtics are doing. He's got familiarity with the personnel. He's been very close over the years with Jason Tatum. That's somebody that I think the Celtics will be keeping their eye on and maybe talking to Portland about in the weeks and months ahead, or I guess weeks really only ahead. They've dealt with Portland before. They did the Drew Holiday deal last offseason, so there's some familiarity between those front offices. And that's where I think the mindset of the Celtics is at right now. I don't think they're looking to offload someone like Simons to get under the luxury tax. They are seeing what you are seeing. They are seeing a team that is locked in with a superstar in Jaylen Brown, who is at least a top 10 MVP guy, maybe a top 5 at this point. A bunch of role players that have played exceedingly well. Derek White is a borderline all-star. Peyton Pritchard is a borderline all-star. They've got a bunch of guys coming off the bench that are giving them productive minutes. This team, at least in the Eastern Conference, is right on the cusp of being a viable contender to win the conference championship. And if Tatum comes back, and if they can get one more big man, all of a sudden you have to look at the Celtics as being one of the favorites to come out of the East, which is not something that anybody would have predicted just a few months ago.